This is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today is the 15th anniversary of the launching of Twitter. That's right, July 15th, 2016, Twitter launches. And ever since that first tweet went out, Twitter has been racking up some really impressive numbers. With the number of people that signed on, that go onto it, and that just kind of brings up a whole idea of like social media. I would say Twitter, because it wasn't the start of it, but it was kind of like the first one that kind of really went global, all over the place. It's one of those, there's a lot of Twitter facts out there, but this is kind of more the psychic side of it. And one of the things I think is really interesting, and you see this a lot more and more, but as people get into social media even more, it's like it gives you like a layer of protection. So I think what's really interesting is when people get into like arguments online, and this happens on Twitter all the time. People comment like, I like this person and I don't like this person, and you almost get into this rolling argument where if they were face to face, they probably would not be arguing about this. They may be having more of a discussion, but it's kind of like you feel protected behind the screen. So it's easier to kind of feel that separation and kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. I can say whatever I want. The really interesting part for a psychic is that energy never dies. Not only the stuff never leaves the internet, you can always find even old stuff on the internet, if you know where to search and where to look for it. But kind of one of the interesting things is that energy never dies because it never goes away 100%. If you're on a phone call and you get off the phone call, you can end up hanging up both ends, and that kind of ends it. Well, when you send out a tweet or you send out that energy, it never really goes away. It's always able to come back. So someone can look at that 4, 5, 6 years or 10 years later and comment on it or like it, and it just comes all the way back up to the top. So it kind of never really ends. And that's one of the interesting facts about social media, but Twitter in particular. People love to get in arguments over it and kind of like do their tweets on it. And because you have limited words, it's one of those, sometimes people kind of like love to go off, and so they'll send like, so many words and so many words, and like this on and on and on battle with other people. And I think that's a really sad state of affairs, because it's one of those, you would think that the internet would bring us closer together, bring us more as a unit, more everybody on the same side, and that is really not what it does a lot. It does connect people, friends to friends, old friends to old friends, and you get to find each other and kind of restart that friendship again. But I'll tell you, more often than not, it's separating people, and it makes people feel really safe and secure behind their screens, and so they feel like they can kind of let that energy out. One of the things I would say is this platform energy, because it never really dies, keeps affecting people over and over. I would say most of the time it's kind of more negative than it is positive. It does have some positive aspects like getting in touch with old friends or staying in touch with family members, but I will say for the most part it is really some heavy energy, and like I said, those energy tweets never really die, and so that's the part that really ends up hurting a lot of people. But I feel like on this one, let's pull a couple of angel cards and see what else we can get. So kind of just asking about Twitter in particular, what energy is out there. And I get the card nature, but I almost feel like it's against this card. It's kind of like it's against our nature to be that argumentative with people. But when it is your nature to be argumentative, it gives people this really secure platform where they feel really, really safe and secure, where they can attack other people or say whatever they want. And it really does hurt a lot of people. But a lot of times it's like, I feel so protected. I feel like I can do it. I can get away with it. So I think that's the harsh part of this. Romance. A lot of people have fallen in love online, especially through Twitter. Like I said, they're connecting with people that they knew from the past, and you do have this sense of being able to connect. Sometimes it's, one of them or both of them are still married, and so it makes in that perspective, it would kind of have more negative energy, but it does reconnect people. And however you reconnect with someone, that's the interesting part. But it does bring in people closer together. And it's one of the things I think is interesting is that you can do a tweet here in the United States and it's all over the world in a few seconds. And everybody can see what you put on there if they're friends with you. And I think that's kind of the scary part of it, but it's also kind of like the really cool part of it. You can say something and connect with someone else across the world. Signs. I will say that there are signs everywhere about tweeting with other people and kind of setting that energy out there. And a lot of times you'll kind of get that little sound in your ear of like, maybe you shouldn't send this one out, or maybe you should look it over before you send it out. And a lot of times people ignore the signs and like, no, let's just go into it. They get in, almost like get drawn into the madness of it and get drawn into the negative energy of it. So they just want to keep going and going and going and finding out more and more information. So that's kind of the hard part of it. And it's like I said, they feel really protected. So it's like there's no problem with me saying what I want to say, or putting it out there because they believe it or they think it's correct. But a lot of times it can really hurt a lot of feelings. I thank you so much for joining me. For learning about Twitter's launches and how that has changed our world. I thank you so much for joining me, and I know we'll be talking again soon.